Hello again. I said I'd make a video regarding triple power, my experiences. I know it's been some time, so I do apologise. You may recall last time I had a near fatal heart attack, which, as you can imagine, was took a little bit of recovering from. Now, following that, Ron wasn't quite so keen on auditing me for a time. He wanted me to get my physical body back up into shape and that sort of thing. Now, me being me, I tended to ignore that, I'm afraid. And I just basically got on with it. Now, so my experiences really are how I've got on solo since. But this is the sort of final one, really. I'm not going to make any more videos, but I wanted to keep people aware of how I'd progressed, what I felt of the whole processes, and the results, really. I know people sort of fill in their own gaps and wonder what's happened to you and whether you're interested or fallen by the way, or didn't think that much of it. Now, there has been other pilots that I've been involved with Ron. Ron 2.0, as he's since been nicknamed now, New Ron, whatever you like. I just call him Ron. And I know there's still debates about whether, he's the reincarnation. Well, in fairness, I don't see that matters. I'm talking about my experiences of this process. So anyway, long and short of it, I continued solo. It's now June the 4th, and the initial heart attack was November the 12th. So it's been quite a long time. And basically now I've fundamentally finished our triple power. Now, as I say, triple power's really changed its name. I never really, I don't know why it's changed its name, just changed its name, doesn't it? I call it the equilibrium process, where you find a point regarding a subject. Now, Ron gave me a list to start with. And that list consisted of, if I can remember it now, find a point of equilibrium regarding ethics, communication, our problems, obviously separately, our problems, overts, withholds, miswithholds, being right, being wrong, being clear, our the first dynamic, the second dynamic, third dynamic, eighth, right through to the eighth dynamic. Then it had matter, energy, space and time. Now, that was the original list, and that shouldn't have taken too long. What I discovered as the process went on, that there were new bits that added into that. And I won't go into all of those because, to be honest, it would sound plain crazy. When we started the process, Ron would say, find a point of equilibrium regarding whatever it was. And then he would ask whether that was a point of matter, energy, space or time. Now, after a time, I came up to a point where I was seeing new points. A point of awareness was the initial one. And then I noticed that matter, energy, space and time disappeared, and all there was awareness. And I talked about total awareness. Now, continuing the process and asking whether that was a point of matter, energy, space or time or awareness, came up with a point of life. Then a point of cause, a point of effect, which led to a point of power. And these were all new points that were quite interesting. And I run those as topics. So find an equilibrium regarding life, find an equilibrium regarding cause, find an equilibrium regarding effect, find an equilibrium regarding our power. And that led to quite a few discoveries along the way. Now, something that really interested me is all of the areas that I was doing, like the dynamics, or any sort of area, would lead to three realizations or fundamental realizations. What I call a human realization, then a spiritual realization, then an ultimate static realization. This opened up memories for me. Initially, I was quite skeptical of these. I was starting seeing pre-universe, end of previous universe, and Big Bang wasn't what I thought it was going to be. The duplication of the individual duplication of multiple universe. The multiple duplication of a single universe with a single being in each, which was quite weird. I don't really want to go into sort of kind of strange things, but yeah, it was interesting. It opened up previous universe history, not only previous universe history, prior to the Big Bang and that. It opened up a series of universes, going back to what I considered to be the beginning of time. That I'd go back, and all I'd come back to is the beginning, if that makes sense, or the end of time, and all from which all there was concepts, really, the creation of concepts, and and all that ended up with is concepts. So that was quite weird. And I spent a long time trying to find an equilibrium regarding these concepts. Now, oddly, recently I did a new pilot with Ron, and we were addressing a totally different topic, and finding beings that could help or assist. And now, out of session, I reached a content point, but me being me, I like to continue these things. Out of session, I broke through a new barrier, which I'd glimpsed multiple times in the process that I've been doing, which was very, very interesting. It's not that I don't want to give you information. I do. It's that it sounds so plain crazy. Like I say, at first, when I was spotting these things and coming up with bits of history, I thought, that's nonsense, that's my mind, it's playing with me. I'm imagining this sort of stuff. But after a time, I came to the realization, well, I've experienced something, and therefore it was real. that something led to realizations. These memories, if you want to call them that, of previous existences and previous universes, they explain why we're the way we are, the way people are with each other. But really, the wins for me have been each time I've completed, a section, I've had a real realization about that. Like the first dynamic. The first dynamic, I realised that we're all trying to be important in our own universe. Whenever you see a success story or a video like this, you kind of relate it to yourself, or I do anyway. How could I get something out of doing that process? Will it benefit me? Or that sounds nonsense, I don't want to do that sort of thing. And it's always been about me, if you like. And I realised that we're playing out things in order to understand things, in order to be important. You can have a label, I've gone clear, or I've achieved this or that, or whatever. And yet I realised that sometimes in order to achieve something, you have to be the failure. In the first place, you have to, in order to go from one state to another state, you have to be in that negative state in order to go into that positive state. So we create being in that negative state. We can go in that negative state for quite a long time before we believe that's our state. But I realised that we don't have to play that out, that we are important or equally significant, if you like, in the universe. The feeling of, I described it before as the feeling of total love from the universe, was quite astounding in that sense. And that you're kind of good enough as you are. That was quite an interesting thing. The second dynamic, it's a big win to say you're good enough, and you're loved by the universe. I was like, whoa, it is a big thing, You're liked. The second dynamic, realising that there was two sides of any relationship. In a physical sense, people come together for breeding and survival. And you can breed and survive, provided you don't have a third party interfering, and then not realising where the third party was and things like that. And then I realised, well, that's a very human level of realisation. Then it went on from there to realise that it was having a desire to have a relationship, a wish to have a relationship, and the ability to maintain it on a spiritual level. This is why relationships survive. People being cheating, they have a wish to be in that relationship, and an ability to overcome the difficulties to maintain it. And that when one person doesn't wish to be in that relationship, they find justification in leaving that relationship because the other person cheated, or the other person, didn't provide financially for them. They'll find all these because they don't want. But it was so interesting seeing that, and then seeing how when you meet somebody, how many third parties are interfering with that relationship. Realising on the second dynamic that family is a consideration. You know, you consider your pets to be family. All these things came as realizations. And ultimately, the truth, the ultimate truth of the second dynamic is it's a consideration. It was also interesting seeing the difference between the second dynamic and the third dynamic, how they alter, how they change. If you can hear something, I've got a little dog who's running around. On the third dynamic, seeing how you don't necessarily, you know, you can have work colleagues and people you just get on with. You can have a team or a country as your third dynamic group you belong to. And you don't even need to know those other people, really know them. You just spend time with them. Acquaintances, or, you know, you're familiar with them in some way or another. And you don't even need to know those other people just to have an agreement to be acting in the same way. Like, you know, you vote one way in politics. As long as all the other people, you're in that group, you belong to them. But actually true friendship, and discovering this, the true friendship, people lift you up, they make you feel good. And without friends, you can be in a very, very dark place indeed. But in order to make friends, you have to, on a spiritual level, you have to invest a part of you in the other person, because it can feel very, very lonely. So you invest a part of you in the other person and become interested and care for that part. So this was these sort of things that I discovered, and okay, we're going into the fourth dynamic. The fourth dynamic, realizing that going back in history, previous universes, Ron mentioned families, and I mentioned this to him. Separate parts of space are, and that we're all en masse placed in these human bodies, but they were not all the same family. So we look for people who are similar to us that we get on with, and so we distance ourselves from other people as they're not the same as us. In that sense of separation, and I realised that as a species, we're in conflict with each other. You know, we're in conflict with ourselves. You know, we're trying to make people abide by laws, or you know, behave according to group codes that don't work for them. Different cultures have different ways of being, and unless we learn to share our experiences and share our resources, unless we celebrate the differences with other people, we're never going to be able to get on. That as a species, unless we conquer space travel and travel to other planets and colonize there, we will ultimately die as a species. But learning how to get on with different people in this society, to share resources, to share technology, to not make the other person wrong all the time, because they're different from us, to try and understand their point of view, it enabled me to see the truth of humanity expanding into space, you know, coming across alien lives and this sort of thing. So it's quite interesting, you know. I mean, I've had a lot of wins out of this. I don't know if I've mentioned already, because I've done this video twice now, and I mentioned some things previously. I don't know if I mentioned in this one, when we started the process, Ron would ask, find a point of equilibrium regarding a particular topic. And then what would happen is he would ask, is that a point of matter, energy, space, time? Matter, energy, space, or time. What came up is, after a while, I came up and realised there was other points, point of awareness. Then I came up and realised that matter, energy, space and time disappeared and all there was awareness. So that was the total awareness that I talked of previously, and being in a state of total awareness, looking at something and feeling the energies, feeling things moving and stuff like that. I started seeing how then there came up a point of life, of power, and I could see how energy was being shifted around, how matter was made. But at each point, the matter, energy, space and time, and then there was no matter, no energy, no space, no time, and how they combined to make experiences, and then seeing the point of life and how life interacted with the lack of awareness, lack of time, lack of matter, space, my dog's feet running across the floor, and then seeing cause and effect as points, power as points, life, I think I mentioned, as a point. So I then ran those on the equilibrium process. So I would run regarding life, find a point of equilibrium. Regarding power, find a point of equilibrium. And they did expand dramatically. So I can't remember how many there were, but there's been a lot, and I'm not finished. Seeing the beginning of the universe, the duplication, multiple duplication of a single universe, or a previous universe, was the Big Bang, really. But it was a false beginning to the it wasn't really the true beginning of the universe. The beginning of the universe was based on concepts, or beginning of the physical universes were based on concepts, and that there's a separation between that and the clarity of thought. These are negative concepts that are being played out, and in order to be free of negative concepts, we step aside from them, and thus create a distance, so that we can be objective. Just seeing that, seeing individual beings going into their entire universe that looks like yours and my universe. Well, this is my universe, you are me, through a different body. Seeing how kindness is so important. It's been fascinating. So yeah, basically I've now completed triple power, if you want to call it that, or I'm running out of subjects. But yeah, it's been incredible. Yeah. What can I add to it, really? It's been incredible. It's wins that just change life. Seeing that a second dynamic, that person doesn't have a wish for a relationship, and therefore that's why they're creating arguments, conflicts, difficulties. They just don't have a wish for a relationship. Simple as. That person, they get through their arguments. They have a wish for it. But yeah. Anyway, look, that's it really. Okay. All all the best to anybody that's trying, and my heart is improving, and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, take care. Bye now.